Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. We talk about different categories of wellness and seeking balance between them. It all stems from my book, Accidentally Well. And there's overview info on our website, letsbewelltogether.com.
This is episode 25.
Welcome back to another episode of Let's Be Well Together. I am Sheila and I'm here with Laurie, my sister.
Hi, everyone.
And welcome back. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
I'm excellent. Yeah, wonderful. So I saw something on Instagram that you posted that I thought was really interesting. I thought we could talk about it. So it's energy takers and energy givers. And should we list it, or do you want to list one and talk about it? Like the first, energy takers are things like people pleasing is an energy taker.
Yeah.
Which definitely is true, right? When you're trying to, especially when you're worried about what everyone's thinking.
Oh my gosh.
Always worried. Oh no. Like that's definitely takes a lot of energy.
Yeah. And how can I help that person rather than what do I want right now or what do I need right now?
Right.
Think of what is, if people are thinking always about what other people need, exhausting.
And I think it's an age thing. I think once we get older, we don't care anymore.
I know.
I saw that as something on Instagram. Either what's great about older women is, they don't care what you think.
Yeah.
so that's true. So people pleasing is an energy taker for sure.
For sure.
Too much screen time.
Energy taker.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Like sometimes I can be looking at Instagram or looking at Facebook and it's an hour later. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that you're on it so long. And
it's a rabbit hole.
It is. Yeah. And then you get these, I find the notifications, like those are grabbers, right? You're like, oh, I've got 20 notifications. Like, really, who cares?
No. Nothing.
Like why do you care about, checking every single notification, or when you get it, you have to look at it. And it's
liking it.
Yeah. And liking things. Yeah. Cause I was telling Laurie the other day, actually, that I don't have my birthday on Facebook. Because that is an option of you putting in your birthday or not. And I didn't put it in because I don't like having to, because you do feel like you have to thank everyone who wishes you a happy birthday. And it's an energy sucker.
It is.
Especially
so you spend
on
your whole birthday. I know.
Whole birthday thanking people for, noticing you.
Yeah.
That's an energy sucker. Okay. So social media, we pretty much touched that there.
Yeah. Fear, doubt, stress. Clearly. And the thing is about those things, fear, doubt, and stress, they're usually about things you can't control.
Exactly.
It's all stuff outside your bubble.
Yeah.
So it's a total waste of your energy. Whatever you think is going to happen, it's not going to be as bad as your brain is thinking.
I know. Ever. Yeah. And deal with it when it comes.
Yeah.
Stressing about it, and then it doesn't happen. It's like all that time that you've just wasted on. I mean, it's really hard because, these are emotions that are hard to to regulate. Control. Yeah. Clutter and mess.
Yeah.
This is a big one for me because I'm incredibly clean and I get stressed out. And this is a funny story. Alex moved into his residence or whatever. And he was moving into one of the rooms and there were 6 guys staying there.
Yeah.
And there's this big living room, a big kitchen. Oh my God, it was a pigsty. Like, Laurie, you have no idea. I mean, probably you have an idea, but it was such a mess. And, we were doing all this stuff and had IKEA furniture and we were exhausted by the end of the day. I said to Alex, I have to clean it. Like, I can't let you live there unless I know it's clean. It's a stress on me. It's really stressful.
Yeah.
So he was like, we came home, we went to bed. Next day, I'm like, can we please go? And he's like, fine.
But this can also be one of those things that couples fight about. One person is comfortable with a certain amount of mess and clutter, and the other person, it really stresses them out.
Right.
And even families, children.
Yeah.
And just being able to deal with another person's clutter and another person's neatness, and find that balance between them, it can be a big stressor. It can be an energy trainer.
So you have to appreciate everyone's opinions in that matter, right? Appreciate, So,
accept them where they're at.
Yeah. So that's definitely can be an energy sucker.
100%.
Okay. What's next?
Dehydration.
I didn't know that was an energy sucker.
100%. Because if you ever look at a flower when it doesn't have water.
Yeah, that's true.
That's basically
pretty
what
wilted.
We look like when we're out, like when we're dehydrated.
Yeah.
Our brains don't think as fast. We can't pick up our energy as quickly, all of those things.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So there you go. Not eating enough, right?
Yeah.
For sure. I definitely feel like my energy's low. if I haven't eaten.
Yeah.
But mainly if I haven't had coffee.
I know.
If I didn't have time for my morning coffee and then, it's 2:00, I'm like, oh my gosh. But
Yeah.
Junk food. It's such a drag because, when you're really hungry or, you eat junk food and you're like, oh, I just need some energy. And it does give you energy for 10 minutes.
Is it? Yeah.
And then down you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just feel so heavy and then you don't want to do anything. And that's a spiral too.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Overworking.
Overworking.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, and I work, like I'm a teacher. My husband works for the government. So we're both government workers. But if there's too much work, there's too much work. Someone needs to know there's too much work. If you always just keep doing it, they won't hire more people.
Yeah. See, that is a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, that's that problem about setting boundaries too, right?
Right.
Where you're always like, this work's coming in, you want to impress people, the whole people pleasing thing. And you just feel like you got to do it. But more will come.
Yeah.
And more will come. Like you need to set boundaries because it is an energy taker.
And sometimes it's just too much work.
It's
That's
too
a
much.
2-person job. Yeah.
Or like they, fire someone or lay off someone or someone goes on sick leave and then that works for you. And it's like you are doing 2 people.
You are.
Yeah.
And that's not okay.
So don't overwork. And the next one is no exercise. Because often you feel like, oh, I'm too tired to exercise. But how often have you you're like, I'm too tired to exercise and you go and exercise and you're like, you feel great after.
I know.
$1 million. Yeah.
Every
Because
time.
I remember when I was dancing, I danced every day and I had exams and I was like, oh, I don't know if I should go to class. But, I was like, okay, I'm going to go. I'm going to go because I should. And I could think and focus so much better after that.
Oh, yeah.
Like taking those 2 hours to exercise and then come back, I could, like everything just made more sense.
Oh, 100%.
Like, so definitely exercise.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Living in the past. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's fun to remember things, but like generally,
It's the past.
Yeah.
Let it go, just like Rafiki.
Yeah.
Stick over the head. It's in the past. It doesn't matter.
Okay, next.
Living mindlessly on autopilot mode. Yeah. Wake up, people. That's the whole awareness thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Be aware of where you are and your surroundings and how you're affecting other people.
Yeah. You missed sitting for too long.
Oh, that's a good one.
Sitting for too long. It's funny because our 2 boys played hockey.
Yeah.
So when you go to hockey tournaments, like you're literally sitting there, or dance competitions, the parents are just sitting there. And at the end of the day, I couldn't understand why I was so tired. It's like, I feel like I've been playing the hockey games, but I wasn't. So this makes sense that it's an energy sucker to sit there.
Yeah.
You
and
know?
a lot of people have jobs where they're just sitting all day.
Yeah. That would be very hard for me to do.
Yeah.
But
find balance
that's an energy sucker.
Yeah.
And then
every
again,
20 minutes, get up, move around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do a back bend.
Get a desk, standing desk, that goes up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And setting unrealistic goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an energy sucker because you get depressed when you can't do them.
I know.
Yeah.
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 Unrealistic expectations.
Okay, well, we're going to end on the positive now.
Yeah, let's talk about this. You know what I love about this list is that it's all about the person. Like it's about you and things you can control.
Right.
Most of the time.
Right, which is good.
Which is so great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sunlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just looking and feeling the sun on your skin. It's so wonderful.
When it's out there, get out. Yeah.
Nutritious food. Yeah, that's really important. Yeah. Like I find, cause I'm working and I'm driving and stuff, I can't stop and eat. So I bring nutritious food to eat, and I find nuts really help because they're high in fat and, they've got protein.
Yeah.
So yeah, nutritious food really helps with your energy.
So much. Exercise. I think we said that one.
Yep.
And hydration, obviously.
Definitely. Yeah.
Fresh air, open those windows.
Yeah, fresh air is so important. Like even just being out in the trees and walking in the forest, and it just relaxes and calms your mind. So yeah,
Put serotonin in your body.
music.
Love music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do, but I find sometimes it makes my mind wander a little. Like I find I'm choreographing, I'm dancing, like it really does make my mind wander.
Yeah.
But I do love music.
There's times I want my ears just free.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Prayer, meditation. With deep breaths.
Laurie's
those all go together.
Laurie's definitely into that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good for you.
So good for you.
Yeah.
Deep breathing. Okay. And next, love and intimacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love and intimacy. And you can get this if you don't have a significant other, you can get it from your children, you can get it from a dog. You can feel love and intimacy from the people around you.
Yeah.
So I think having an open heart in all of the spaces
Yeah.
that you go into and being open to accepting that love from other people and
Yeah.
not closing yourself off.
Yeah, for sure. I also
Yeah.
feel like you can get love and intimacy for doing good things. Like
Yeah.
opening the door for someone or helping, you know what I mean? Like doing something for someone gives you a feeling of love and intimacy and appreciation.
I know the nicest guy in Costco today.
Yeah?
Nicest man in the parking lot.
Oh.
Yeah, he helped me put my flowers away. He took my cart, put it back.
Get out. Like, wasn't
know.
it an employee?
No, just this nice man. Yeah, that was parked beside me.
So wonderful.
yeah, Costco guy. Thank you. Made my day.
Energy giver.
Energy giver. Self-care.
Yes.
Yes.
We talk about that all the time.
Love self-care.
And positive affirmations.
Those are those mantras. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Positive affirmations. I know some people put Post-its on their mirror to remind them. Give them positive affirmations in the morning. If you don't like a mess, though, that might bother you. But
Sticking those things on my mirror. Oh, no.
but some people, you can do it. You look great. Things like that,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Proper rest. Oh my goodness. That is so important. Like for me, because I just love to sleep.
Me too.
So I need to sleep and I don't have a problem going to bed at 8 if I'm tired.
Me too.
I'm like tired, going to sleep.
9 o'clock, I do not respond to you or your email.
Yeah.
Nope. No more emails for me.
Yep.
Yep.
Mindfulness.
Yep. Being aware of what you're doing in the space that you're doing in, how you're affecting others.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. Art, creativity is so good.
It's so good because I feel like it opens your mind
So much.
like for other things, like not just for art and creativity, but for, math and reading and like just for if you can just spend some time being creative, it'll really help you in the rest of your day. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So in Robin Williams' interview, he was doing this activity where you just take anything, any object, and you have to use it in a way that that object wouldn't be used. So if you're using a Kleenex box, you don't use it for the Kleenex. You have to find a creative way to use it. It'd be a fun game to do with your kids.
Yeah, that would be a fun game.
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, living in the present.
Yeah.
I find that all the time. Sometimes I'm looking at or I'm feeling really good about something. I'm like, remember this, appreciate this, because this doesn't happen every day.
No, take it with you.
Yeah.
This is a good moment. Yeah.
And that's the end.
That's the
So
end.
there you go.
Yeah.
Remember, energy givers. That's what you want, those energy givers. So
Yeah. And we can post that on the website.
yeah.
Yeah. For anybody that would like it.
Or the Instagram.
Yep.
Check us out.
Guests are giving their time, expanding our minds. Today's interview is in the area of social wellness. I'm speaking with Clarence Cachagee. Clarence has an undeniable spirit for change, with a focus on working with the spirit within. He's a helper, visionary, and author who is known for investing his whole self into his community. Clarence originates from the Chapleau Cree First Nation and calls Waterloo Region his home. He's faced struggles and chooses to serve and support those living on the margins of society. Clarence continues to engage with his community through land-based teaching and healing, as an Indigenous community educator, public speaking, and facilitating groups to encourage healing. Clarence says, "It's said that Mother Earth has all the medicines for every disease there is. Indigenous people of Turtle Island are land-based people. They've received the teachings from the animals. Their creation stories are about Mother Earth, and it's said that you can go anywhere on Turtle Island and find the medicine you need. Understanding land-based philosophies helps us to become better connected and feed our spirits." Clarence works at Conestoga College as an Aboriginal Services Coordinator and the visionary and founder of Crow Shield Lodge. Welcome, Clarence.
John, how are you doing tonight? Thanks for having me on here.
Well, I'm doing great because I've been looking to have you on and people like you, so I'm really happy.
That's good. This is an opportunity then for both of us.
It is. So let's explore. And today what I'm hoping to get a better understanding of is territorial acknowledgments. And when I talked to you about this, you said, what about land acknowledgments? And I thought to myself, didn't know there was a difference. Before I just turn to that though, I mentioned that you're with the Chapleau Cree First Nation.
Yes.
In Canada, how do we describe Indigenous groups? Do we say tribes? Do we say peoples?
We call them bands. We have
Bands.
bands here. Yeah. Tribes are normally across the states in the United States. They refer to their nations as tribes. We refer to our nations as band because we're band members. We're not tribe members.
Okay. So then turning to acknowledgments, how would you describe just in overview what a territorial and a land acknowledgement is?
Okay. Well, they're two different things through my lens, John. We've found that time and time again, there's so many organizations that they say they're doing land acknowledgments, but they're actually doing territorial acknowledgments. It's my understanding, John, that as soon as you start talking about the nations of people that are connected to the land where that acknowledgement is being given, you're talking about the territories. You're talking about the territories that those original nations are connected to. So as soon as you start mentioning the Anishinaabe, as soon as you start mentioning the Haudenosaunee, as soon as you start mentioning the Chinatan people, those were nations of indigenous people on this land before anybody was here. And they were stewards of the land. Through my lens, as soon as a nation's name gets mentioned, it's a territorial acknowledgement. Now, a land acknowledgement, that's when we specifically speak about the land. The Haudenosaunee have a Thanksgiving address. And sometimes that Thanksgiving address, John, it can take at least a day.
And when you talk about an address, are you talking about addressing the land?
They are addressing the land from top to bottom. They address everything in the sky. They address all of the birds, all the different kinds of birds. And then they start coming down, and then they start addressing all the different types of trees. And then they start addressing all the different types of plants, all the different types of grasses. And then they start going underneath the ground, and they start talking about those creatures that dwell underneath the ground. And that's through my lens. That's a land acknowledgement. Sometimes you can blend them both together, but they are two separate things. They are two separate things. A territorial acknowledgement acknowledges and expresses a gratitude for the peoples whose territory we are on. It names the nations that were here first. It recognizes their traditional knowledge. It recognizes our ongoing presence and influence. Now, a lot of times when Indigenous people are asked to open things, we open it up with a prayer, we open it up with a smudge, and then we open it up with a song. Almost always that I can say when I open something up, I'm talking about my connectedness to the two-legged. I'm talking about my connectedness to the four-legged, to the winged ones, to the swimmers. I'm talking about my connectedness to the crawlers. I'm talking about my connectedness to those four winds that come in those directions. I'm talking about my connectedness to the trees, to the plants, to all of the medicines, and to the rocks and the minerals and the mountains and those rivers, streams, and oceans, all within that circle of life as an equal. That's what we say in our prayers. And as Indigenous people, when we wake up, we say thank you. And then we offer our thank you through prayer every day, every day, every day, sometimes multiple times throughout the day, because we're so grateful for our connection to the land, because we have a deep, deep connection. Now, the thing that some non-Indigenous organizations, they don't understand is what I just told you, because we have that deep connection and we're giving thanks all the time. And then they come up to us and they say, would you mind doing a territorial acknowledgement for us? And we go, we acknowledge this land and this territory every day. We are not the ones to do that. It's not our place. It's not our time to do that. A territorial acknowledgement is a small form of reconciliation. And Indigenous people, we don't do those acknowledgements, because we acknowledge, it's like acknowledging our house that we live in.
So can I just interrupt with a couple questions?
Yes.
So I want to ask you if I forget what a smudge is. But in terms of what you just said, when you mentioned reconciliation, so do I take it what you mean is might be appropriate for someone like me to do a territorial acknowledgement, because that would be part of an exercise of reconciliation. You know, I know it's a small part, but it would be something. Is that what you're saying? But meanwhile, to ask an Indigenous person to do that, it's not part of that same reconciliation event.
Yeah, it's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. What we could say is that when we've turned the tap on just a little bit and a drip is starting to come out, you know, of reconciliation or maybe of allyship, right? It's just starting to flow, which is great because people are finally starting to notice and they're paying attention and they're being accountable and they're listening and they're learning. And that is one of the biggest steps that we want in allyship and for people to walk with us.
Yeah.
But they need to learn. They need to unlearn, and they need to re-educate themselves about the truths, because a lot of the history that has been shared with people is incorrect.
So I work at a law firm, and we have lawyers in my firm who do work with the Indigenous community, and one who's Indigenous, when the Truth and Reconciliation Committee was done, and they generated, really lengthy reports, but she gave me a summary report. I read the introduction and I was pretty blown away, because despite everything, all the terrible things that we learned about in that process, and that many of us weren't taught in school and didn't learn about, there was a real sense from the speakers of the Indigenous community who were quoted in that introduction, where I thought it was generous, where it was almost saying, they weren't excusing anything that happened in the past, but they were focused on the future and saying, we want to start a conversation. You guys have to learn to communicate with us, and we have to open the lines of communication. I hear what you're saying, like it's a drip, drip, but the tap's starting to flow. And I see that as good news too.
I see that as great news. I see it as the time is right to have these conversations. And John, they're not going to be easy conversations. We are giving people a starting point, and it is not easy, because we're starting to talk about those truths that have not been talked about. And it's not about blaming or shaming anybody. It's just about those truths have to be disclosed and talked about, so that those fractures of the past can be repaired, and so that we can all have a different understanding of what it's like to walk down a road together as equals. Colonialism has just had a horrendous impact on all of us, especially the Indigenous people. And it's so in our systems that we're not used to it. We're not used to systems. We don't work that way. We don't work with tiered systems. We work within a circle.
So let me go back. You mentioned a smudge. What's that?
Smudging. Well, smudging is when we burn our medicines. With the Indigenous people, the teachings that I have, we have 4 sacred medicines, which is sage, cedar, sweetgrass, and tobacco. All of those medicines have different properties, but we can smudge and we can burn all those medicines. And when we do, we wash those medicines over us. Like the sage, for example, that white sage. That's a strong medicine, and it'll take away the negative energy that we may pick up throughout our day. So what we do is we wash that smoke over our hands, so that anything we touch, we'll touch and create it in a good way, in a kind way. And then we wash that medicine of the smoke over our eyes, so that we see things in a good way. We wash that medicine over the top of our heads, so that any thoughts that we have will be good thoughts and kind thoughts. We bring that medicine to our ears, so that we'll always be able to hear the best out of everyone and everything. And then we bring that medicine of the sage, we bring it to our throats. We cleanse our throats, so that when we speak, we have a strong voice. And when we speak, we say kind words. And then we pull that medicine right into our hearts, so that we have empathy. We have love for ourselves and love for others. And then we pull the medicine right into the core of our beings, so that we'll always be able to stay centered. Not looking for balance right now, but we want to stay centered. And then we wash that smoke and that medicine down each one of our legs so that we can always remember how sacred life is with each step that we take on our mother, the earth. That's what smudging is.
Well, I'm glad I asked. That was just fascinating. And thank you for that.
And sometimes you'll see people quickly just wash the smoke over them, and they're doing exactly the same thing that I just said. It's just, I like to give a bit of detail as to why we do it, because a lot of people see us do it, but they really don't know the why.
I had no idea, and it just sounds like such a wonderful way to approach things. So I have a question I ask every guest that I'll turn to, but just before I do that, so if I have a podcast where we interview people, we talk, and then we broadcast it out on the internet for other people to listen to. Is that the type of event where it might be appropriate for me to do a territorial acknowledgement as part of a reconciliation process?
All right, that's a great question. And through my lens, I think you should acknowledge the territory that you're on. Acknowledge the nations of Indigenous people that were here before you. And then it's just about giving respect. It's about giving respect back there, because we need to remember who was here and who was stewarding this land before point of contact. And it's just a great way. And then when you talk about how you put one together, you need to do some research. You need to look at other territorial acknowledgments. And then you need to reflect on what you want to put together and make it as your own. Because that's what we want to do. It's one thing to just read a script.
I was going to ask, like, how can I say something that's not just rote, that's genuine?
And that's what you want. So you want to genuinely try to capture through your lens what has happened. So you could say that, we live on the Haldeman track, which was part of the a donation of land that was given to the Haudenosaunee for the support they gave in the War of 1812. Now, how many people are benefiting from living on that tract of land? And maybe you're one of them. Maybe you want to say that. You want to acknowledge why you're acknowledging this, because maybe it's time, or maybe you've had some thought to think about the property and the land that you're on.
Would it be appropriate to say that it's also part of an exercise? It's one of my small ways of expressing reconciliation or desire for
Yes, that's personalizing it. That is wonderful. And you want to acknowledge how it relates to the work that you're doing.
We're burning through our time. We could keep going, but it's nice to just stick to it if we can. And this show is about wellness and a theory I'm exploring about trying to achieve balance in multiple areas of wellness. And we're trying to stay on top of them. But in a busy life with so much to do, it's really not possible to stay on top of all our categories of wellness at any given time. And so we do what's essentially just a mini check-in with our guests, a mini wellness check-in. So the question is, are you currently neglecting an area of wellness that's important to you? And if so, can you think of even one thing you can do to foster wellness in that area?
That's a great question that I was not prepared for.
Even better.
That's good. That is even better. And we adapt, right? And it's all about being truthful and honest. So is there wellness? So when I think of wellness, John, I have to think of my mind, my body, my spirit, and my emotions. And to be honest with you, I am, there is something lacking in one of those quadrants, and it's to do with my mind. And it's to do with unpacking some of the traumas of my past. But the only way that I can do that is through awareness. I did some healing work about 12 years ago. 12 years ago, I changed my life around. 13 years ago, I was homeless. When I changed my life around, I did some healing work, and I went to address some things that I was avoiding for a very long time, deep, deep down inside of me. It was trauma work. It was one of the hardest things I ever did in my life. And I thought because it was so hard, it could be one and done and I'd be good to go. Life doesn't work like that, John.
No, you're right.
Life does not work like that. So after about 12 years, something crawled out of there that I thought I addressed. And I'm aware of it. So what did I do? I asked for help. I went and I talked to some of my traditional friends. I went and talked to my non-traditional friends. And then I sought out a traditional counselor that aligns with my values.
Well, that's really a great story. We try and ask people to exercise self-awareness, which is really hard, especially, I've told some stories, and so has my co-host, about, we wear a mask to hide certain things, and we frankly don't want to look behind it because we're afraid of what we're going to see. And self-awareness is just so important, and I'm just so glad that you found it in yourself to reach out for help from friends and traditional people and other people. It's a really good story, and I'm glad you were able to do that.
Well, thank you. And it's about awareness, and it's about knowing yourself. Yeah, I could have avoided it. I could have dusted it off, or I could have, said it was just an isolated time. But it's not. It's not. It's not only about what we carry with us in our minds. It's about what dwells in the darkness of our shadows, right? That's what we carry, and the stuff in our shadows. It all depends where you stand. That shadow could be very small, or that shadow could be very long, and you could have a lot of things within the darkness of that shadow. And when I say that, I reflect back to things that were handed down to me from my ancestors that didn't belong to me. And those things that were handed down to me from my ancestors, a lot of those things stemmed from the residential schools. And when I say that, I'm the first generation on my dad's side that was actually able to go home after school. But I didn't grow up on my reserve. I grew up in foster care. And that had an impact. It's through conditioning, it's your environment, it's all of this stuff. I'm a product of the 60s scoop. My dad was in the residential schools, my grandmother, my uncles, and my aunts. I was displaced at a young age, put into the system. I was a Crown ward at a very young age. Along with my sister, we were moved around. We were adopted once, then we were put back into the system. And then we ended up with a family outside of Kitchener-Waterloo, and we were raised by New Order Mennonites. So how do you think that would affect someone's mind, their body, their spirit, and their emotions? Knowing that you're different, and knowing that you can visually see that you're different, but not knowing the whys. And those whys growing up were some of the hardest things to figure out. Like, why didn't I have parents? Why were we in this situation? Why do I look different than this family? And then I became angry. I became angry as a child. And then, I became a bully. And it's just all of these things that happen through the environment, through conditioning. And then that affects you as an adult. It really does affect you as an adult if you don't get a grip on it. If you can not start, and then you start acting differently, you start losing sleep, you start you start coping in unhealthy ways. But then what I always do is I go back to culture. I go back to ceremony. I go back to my elders. I go back to my mentors. I go back to my partner, right, who keeps me in line.
We did have a couple of guests who are working through some pretty serious issues. In their case, they were mental health issues, which are slightly different, and who said that it's a lifelong exercise, that even when they're in a good place, they know that they have to continue for the rest of their life to work on it. So it sounds like what you're describing, you're going to be facing that as well. And obviously I wish you the best of luck with it, and hope at some point maybe things even out a little more, so the periods of feeling balanced and together last longer. And
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And you know what it's all about? It's exactly what you said. Being truthful and honest with yourself and being okay with taking that mask off and being vulnerable.
Exactly. And that's really hard to do. I mean, I admit it in myself. I have a very difficult time doing that, but I try, and I'm going to keep trying.
Yeah. That's the way. And I'm a firm believer that steel sharpens steel, so that men need to be supporting men and women need to be supporting women.
Okay. Well, let's leave it at that. We have gone a little over, but I just find it was worth it. There were so many great topics that we talked about, and I really appreciate your time.
All right.
I'm Cameron, and welcome to another installment of The Adventures of the Starving Artist. I should preface this particular episode by saying I could give an alternate title of The Adventures of the Stuffy-Nosed Artist. During my travels, I've managed to pick up a bit of a summer sniffle, so forgive me, bear with me. Thankfully, I keep testing negative on the COVID rapid tests, so I've managed to dodge the dirty vid once again, by the looks of things, which is excellent news. But definitely got a little bit of a sniffle going on. This weekend was an actual adventure. More than just playing and performing, but actually getting there this time was an adventure. So here's how it went. Usually, when I have to do a big drive to get to a string of gigs, I like to leave the day before, so I have lots of time to get there, I'm not in a rush, there's no big pressure. This time around, I couldn't swing it because I had to teach late the night before, so I knew it was going to be a long day, driving and then playing a show. I knew that going in. What I didn't anticipate, however, was the Rogers network completely going kaput. I'm sure nobody else did. But what it turned out to be, or how it went, was driving along, maybe an hour and a half into the drive, and I realized, I need gas. And my car was giving me the fill up, you idiot, warning lights. You know what I mean. So not much range left. No biggie. I'll pull off at this service station and fill up. So I do, I pull off. And as I pull up to the pump, I see there's a sign that says, no debit, no credit, cash only. I'm like, oh, geez. So I go inside and I say, hey, is there an ATM? I don't have cash, No, there's not. They're all down. They're all on Rogers. Oh, good. Couldn't line up an e-transfer. Couldn't call anybody. It was not going well. So I was kind of stranded. So I put my car into a parking spot and thought it out for a while. Tried to wait it out for about half an hour. And nothing came back online. So then I had a brainwave. I remembered that I had downloaded the North American maps into my phone so I could check them offline in case I was ever anywhere that service was spotty or didn't have data or whatever, which is perfect for a situation like this. So I opened the map, checked it out, found a gas station 2 exits up on the highway, went back into the service station gas station that I was at and asked to borrow their landline, which thankfully was on the Bell network, so it was functioning. Called this other gas station, who apparently wasn't on Rogers because they picked up. And I asked, hey, is your debit credit machine working so I can get gas there? And they said, oh yeah, no problem. So I, fingers crossed, got in the car hoping I wasn't going to run out of gas and managed to make it to that other pump and fill up. Bit of an adventure, but we navigated it okie dokie. The rest of the drive was fairly uneventful, aside from the wicked traffic at Toronto, per usual. And we made it to the show on time and had a great time. It was a lovely evening, playing outside at Bingaman's in Kitchener. Had some pizza, had some laughs, some good tunes. It was nice. The next day was the big show of our weekend. It was another wedding, and this time it was at the lovely Tapestry Hall in Galt. If you're not familiar, I encourage you to check it out, either by scoping it out online, or if you have an opportunity, pop your head in there in person. It's a beautiful space. I love playing there. Shy Harry's performed there a few times, for weddings and otherwise, and I've also performed there with my old band, the Purple Tones. At the ceiling, they have this wonderful art installation that it always reminds me of snowflakes. It's really, really neat. You should check out some pictures. The wedding itself was beautiful, a wonderful atmosphere, lots of dancing, big smiles, and some good tunes. We got out of there in the wee hours of the morning, satisfied with a job well done. And that was that. Driving back to Ottawa, there was nothing crazy. It was smooth sailing. Some other cool updates. Coming up, one of the people with whom I've collaborated before, her name is Natalia Zuk, a really talented vocalist and a great songwriter. I've had the privilege of working with her before on one of her releases. Her next one, entitled Unbreakable You, is coming out July 29th, and I play keys on that track. It'll be out on all major digital platforms, so more likely than not, whatever platform you're using to listen to this right now, you could probably find it on there. I'll update you once again when it's out officially, but if you want to look for it or write it down so you don't forget, that's Natalia Zuk, Z-U-K, and the song is entitled Unbreakable You. And the last cool little update, you might remember from a few episodes ago that I had been writing some choral parts for my bandmate Eric. He's been doing his solo album, and it's now in the final stages before being released, which means it's time to put out a single or two. And that's exactly what he's done. This past Friday, he put out the first single, Neon Soul. Now, I've had the privilege of listening through the album in its entirety so far, but I think Neon Soul is actually my favorite, which is cool. But you can hear the choir parts in that. That's also available on all major digital platforms. Neon Soul by Eric Bolton. Check it out. That's pretty much all I've got for you this week. Coming up, one more crazy weekend of driving, and then I get to kind of take a breather. Thanks very much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful week. This is The Starving Artist. Until next time.
If you like what we're doing and enjoy the show, please spread the word about us. Connect with us on social media. Follow our Instagram account. It's at lets.be.well.together. Please also subscribe to us and rate us on your favorite podcast platform.
Move that body like we're meant to do. And today we're going to talk about hiking. It's John and Sheila. I got back from Newfoundland a little while ago, and there's this big hill in the middle of St. John's, Newfoundland, called Signal Hill. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
I think it's actually on the east side of St. John's. In St. John's, there's a bit of a harbor, and it's surrounded by kind of these tall hills, almost like mountains, but not as big as a mountain. And Signal Hill is essentially kind of the last spot until the other side of the ocean, so England and Europe. They call it Signal Hill because sometime in the early 1900s, Marconi received the first transatlantic signal there. So that was pretty big news. But more recently, like what was cool is we actually went to Newfoundland way back in 2002.
Yeah, 20 years ago. It seemed like just a little while ago, but it was 20 years ago.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. And so I have this picture still in my mind of this really green hill, but it's very rocky. And what we did back then, our kids were younger, and we thought, oh, there's a path that goes down Signal Hill. Wouldn't that be cute for the family to do? But when we started going down it, and it wasn't, I'm not going to say harrowing, but there were certainly some sections with, there was no guardrails, there was nothing to hold on to, a fairly narrow path. And on one side, if you've got a kind of steep rocky hill, and on the other side, the ocean.
Yes.
So when you have a kid who's, 5 or 6 years old, pretty freaky.
Well, we didn't have any children with us
on this last trip.
On the last trip, but it was still pretty harrowing at times because there's rocks you got to go over, and there's like man-made bridges kind of to help you walk over the gaps in the stone.
Okay.
So you're walking over, and there's this huge cliff that you're walking over. So it was just really, really cool. And it was a really good workout. The amount of stairs, there was over 1,000 stairs.
Did you go up or down?
I drove up and then we walked down, but you walk down, you got to walk halfway up again still.
I know there's a roadway.
Yes.
And so the other thing too is you're on top of the hill. So you drive up and there's a place to park and there's kind of like a touristy area.
Yeah.
Then you walk down. What's really cool is you walk into a place, I think they call the Battery, which has all these really colorful, they call them jelly bean houses because they're all brightly colored.
Yes, yes.
So I suppose you could walk back up the path again, or you could find your way back to the road.
Yes, you can find your way back to the road, or you can take a path, and you can take a path that goes way out right to the edge of the water and so you're right at the edge, but you can also go on this path that is a little wider that goes from the top to the Battery. So it's not on the edge, but it's a nice path. And that is what my mom and I did.
On the way back.
We did that path. And then Laurie, Joanne, and Anne-Marie did the longer path.
Are you talking going down or going up?
Going down.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, I just wish that we had a few mountains here in this area. It's something that we don't have. We have a lot of hills in Kitchener, but not picturesque mountains with water. And I was really impressed. We were going down these stairs, and at that point there was about 150 stairs that we had to go down. And there was this gentleman who was running down, and we thought that he just forgot something because he grabbed a sweater and then ran back up. But while we were walking down these stairs, he went up and down 3 times.
Wow.
Yes, up and down these stairs. And
did you talk to him at all?
Yes, he says he does it every day.
How many times?
So I think he goes up and down those stairs 10 times.
Wow.
So he does the whole hike from the bottom to the top. And then when you get to the very top of the hill, because this is how we just started, you've got these stairs. It's about 150 stairs. And he does that at the end of the hike 10 times.
And how old do you think he was?
40s. In his 40s. Good. Yeah.
Wow, what a great way to move that body.
Great way to move your body. And there was a lot of people of all ages. There were quite a few people who were locals who do that hike every day. And it takes them about an hour.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So
I did see, so I was out for a run the other day, and there's an old landfill site.
Yes.
Close to where someone we know used to live. Anyway,
yes.
It's just, now it's a fairly big hill.
Yes.
And I noticed as I was running up, there was a couple, and they were running up the hill and then walking down, running up the hill.
Wow.
And I thought, because you're supposed to do some hill training for running, but it's actually a little steep. I did that one time, and I kept doing that, and it actually hurt my Achilles.
Right.
But still, I thought, wow, those guys are intense.
Yeah, that is intense.
But that sounds amazing. So there's people in Newfoundland who not only move that body every day, but they get to see it on this beautiful historic site, ocean view. Amazing.
And the beautiful air, the freshness in the air, and the wind. There was a breeze, and yeah, it was just like you were one with nature.
Beautiful. There's a thought popped up while running. My favorite running moments, despite the fact that I overthink everything, my favorite running moments are when I'm just cruising along. Feel the wind on my face. Maybe the sun's energizing my skin. I feel light floating along, not thinking of anything. I'm not thinking of technique. I'm not thinking about how it feels when my foot hits the ground or how my arms feel. I'm really not thinking of anything. I'm just enjoying the moment. My body feels energized and alive. It feels like I'm doing something I was designed to do, that I was born to do. When I introspect, when I look into myself, I know that I overthink everything. I know that I'm too technical, even when it comes to running. And there's a good side to that because it's helped me to learn how to run in an efficient way and avoid injury. But knowing that, looking inside, I also know to let it go. And when I can let it go, that's when there's some pretty magical things that can happen if the circumstances are just right. It's me. Am I?
Yeah. Just let me say, flip side of the coin. So this is going to be a light one, actually. We were at a comedy show. We like to go to comedy shows once in a while. And
once in a while,
yeah,
as much as possible.
Yeah, as much as possible. They're really quite funny, and it just gives you a new perspective of the world and also gets you away from your life.
Shout out to Rusty Nail Comedy at Crazy Canuck in downtown Kitchener.
Yeah, you should check it out. It's great. And we went with me, John, and my sister, Laurie. And this comedian, and we always try and get there early so that we can sit far away because we don't want to be picked on.
Well, I like to be close enough that I'm close, but far away enough that I'm not in the radar. I'm not,
Yeah,
but I'm always in the radar.
Me too. Well, and I think I have a problem because I did have this problem with dance too, that I'm very emotional. My face, kind of, you can tell what I'm thinking and all the time.
Not only that,
from my facial expression. So I think the comedians can see that. Like,
sometimes when I'm talking to Sheila, you know how you can predict what people are going to say? She's mouthing the words that I'm saying.
which I don't know that I do.
Well, you do.
I don't think I do that. So anyways, maybe I do. But so we're sitting there and the comedian was talking about his day and how his day sucked and
Yeah, basically
life
he
sucks.
asked the whole audience. He asked the audience, did anyone else have a terrible day? And of
Yeah.
course, you know, we're all people who live in a nice community and have enough money to go to a comedy show on
and
a
it just so happens
Friday night, and we were all in a good mood, and
Yeah.
nobody was like, yeah, I had a bad day. We were all like,
I had
"Why?"
a really good day. And I literally said that out loud.
Yeah, so he's like, did anyone else have a bad day other than me? And
There it is.
that's how they got. And so then, you know, it was a bit frustrating. So then, you know, where do you go from there?
But
So-
I was like smiling. I looked at Laurie and I was like, hey, I had a great day.
did we say that Laurie's your sister and she was with us?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So I looked at her. I'm like, I had a great day. She goes, yeah, I had a great day too. Because, you know, and so I guess the comedians saw us saying, and they're like, oh,
All smiley and
smiling,
happy.
yeah, aren't you? And then he made fun of us about how happy and smiley and perfect. And he goes, and you two are probably like sisters or something. We're like, yeah. And he goes, of course you are. And I was like, seriously. And so then they kept like making fun of us. And
Well, they weren't really making fun of you. They were just making fun of the fact that, you know, the world's the way it is, and there's the two happy smiling. And then at one point you went to say something, and then he's like,
oh, shut up, you.
I don't want to hear from the happy sisters.
And it was so funny. Then the next comedian came up and said, oh, it's a happy sisters. And John was like slowly pulling away from us because he
No,
didn't want anything to do with
it was the
us.
same guy.
It was the same guy.
Yeah, so I kind of slid my chair a bit to the right. Because I don't know, there's something about my face. I don't know, it's just the way I look at comedians. And I don't ever mind. Like, any of them can say anything to me if they think it adds to their show, because
Yeah, so then
I think it's funny. But this one did get me a bit off guard because, you know, they were smiling, and then he looks at me, he goes, so who are you? And then he looks at me and goes, and what's his story?
Yeah. Like, look at him. He's pulling, keeps sliding away every 10 seconds.
He's obviously a closet gay. Look at his glasses.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and forget the comment about gay. I don't even understand
my
what that
goodness.
means. But I was self-conscious about my glasses.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
is there something wrong with my glasses?
He was worried.
Do they, you know, are they too round? Or
Yeah,
are
am I
they,
not?
Is it my,
Yeah, I want to be a lawyer.
because
and
that's
be-
it. I never had glasses till after I was 50.
Right.
And then, you know, when I finally got them, and they're expensive, right? So, and I'm
Yeah.
a bit frugal, let's
Yeah.
say. And so it's a big deal to buy
Yeah.
glasses. So I did get a couple sets, but they all have the same shape on them.
Because they look good on you.
Yeah. So then,
I think he looked intellectual and he was intimidated, John. And he just,
well, I'm pretty sure if he's a comedian on stage talking to people, he's just trying to make people laugh.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
wasn't-
exactly.
It has nothing to do with intimidated. But anyway,
Yeah.
the funny part was just later in the week.
yeah. So we were telling the story, always telling the story to people about what happened to us at the comedy show. And so John would then ask,
Is there something wrong with my glasses?
Is there something
Do you
wrong
like
with
my
my
glasses? So
how do you think I look in these glasses? What do you think?
yeah, so for a whole week, I guess I didn't even realize I was doing it, but I was asking everybody how they like my glasses. Like, you know,
It's like, okay, get over it already. He was
And-
just making a joke.
the funny thing is I don't even really care. Like,
And it wasn't even mainly about you. He was making fun of us the whole time.
And then I think, so afterwards, I had to go to the washroom at the end of the show, but I think he came up to you and said something like,
Yeah, because we were waiting for you at the bathroom. And so then he came up and apologized and said, you know, he didn't mean to pick on us and stuff, but I didn't want to talk to him because I was sure he was going to continue to make fun of us. Because I'm really shocked that being just a nice person, having a happy life is funny to people.
yeah, but again, like, so I'm going to keep being, I resist what you're saying.
You resist.
I if it was me, I would have just said, hey, knock yourself out. Like, say anything you want, because I've got thick skin, and if it makes people laugh, go for it. And again, because like when I'm watching comedians on stage, I'm trying to just live in the moment and laugh at their jokes. But for whatever reason, I'm always also seeing how hard that must be, and
Yeah.
how challenging it must be. And you know, they're trying different techniques. Like a lot of times during a set, something doesn't work, and you can almost see them recalibrating and saying, well, let me try this.
But see, my problem is like, I find comedians just so witty. They just come up with these things, like just looking at the audience and saying things to them. And I think it's great, but I'm not that way. I can't think of comebacks quickly. So that's why I don't like.
But my point is
having that conversation with comedians. Yeah.
So my point isn't that he is saying, people are funny if they're nice. To me, that was someone trying to recalibrate, read the audience, think what they think is funny. And in the context where everyone was like, when he's like, who had a bad day? And everyone's like, oh, we're all super happy people and have perfect lives. Then it might be funny if he pokes fun at somebody who looks really happy.
Yeah.
So I just saw it a different way. Like, I don't see him zeroing in on you individually. I think him zeroing in on something and trying to make the audience laugh.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. We had a good time.
Yeah. And I was happier that you were the target than me.
Yeah. Anyways, it is fun.
Yeah. Love it.
Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own, and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct, or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way.
So that is the end of our podcast. And here we are with our sign off. I have Sammy, Sheila, and John. So Sammy, what do you have going on this week?
Yeah, it's David's older sister's wedding on Thursday.
Wow.
On Thursday.
Thursday, yep. So we're going up to Allure Mill, having a fun wedding.
Nice.
And then we're heading to the cottage because his family from Wales is going to be down. So I've never met them before, so I'm excited to meet them and spend some time at the cottage. Hopefully it'll be good weather.
Mm-hmm.
That's neat. My family history is from Wales too, on one side of the family.
Cool.
What a coincidence.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That is awesome. Well, I hope that all goes well.
Yeah. How about you, John? What do you have going on?
Well, I've got a busy work week. I was going to mention a little bit about last week. So first of all, I started driving my bike into work. We just got a new office. And one of the great things is in the parking garage itself, there's a bike room. So it feels really safe to put the bike there. It's been great. I just drive in at a really nice speed and just kind of chill out. Really been enjoying that. I've been having some fun pop-ups on my runs lately too, usually related to some of the interviews we've been doing, and things are starting to pop into my head. There's these little nuggets that I don't really notice when I'm doing the interview, but for whatever reason they're popping in, and it's really helping me try and figure things out. Also, we had some great sessions this week. We often do a few sessions and then stick them in the can and they pop up in later episodes, and we had 3 What's on Your Minds this week. Sheila and I had a few flip sides, and we're starting to connect on some Move That Bodies. So it's just been a really productive and good week, and I had a lot of fun riding my bike.
Excellent.
How about you, Sheila?
Well, I too have been riding my bike to work, so that's good. It kept saying it was going to rain, but it never rained. Not that that's good, because we definitely need rain. 2 things. I'm very happy that Move That Body has the words back. I don't know what happened last week.
Yeah, so last week I was putting a show together, and I noticed that on the intro music to Move That Body, there's 2 versions. I have one without the talking and one with the talking. I must have pushed the wrong button. So when I was putting the show together, I'm like, nobody's going to know.
I was like, oh no.
But of course, Cheryl, one of our big listeners, noticed right away, and Sheila noticed, and I got in trouble from both of them. So I'm not making that mistake again.
So that's number 1. And number 2, we have John's brother and his wife are coming from Australia on Tuesday. So they're going to be staying with us for a few days, and I'm going to be picking them up at the airport on Tuesday. So that's going to be a busy week ahead.
In fairness, Sheila was biking for a long time to work, and that finally got me doing it. Also, our son, Alex, who lives here, he's been biking to work. So I'm like, if those guys can bike to work, I should bike to work. And there was actually a day this week where all 3 of us biked to work on the same day, which I thought was pretty cool.
That is great. Okay, so everyone have a great week, and we will see you next week. That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.